Yo, yo, thanks for tuning in to the Maniacal Pod Talk. I'm your host, Brian, Murph in the streets. Mike, drop my intro, man. All right, first and foremost, I'd like to say thanks to my big bro, Mike, and my guy, Jack, audio unit for that beat, for the track, the intro. Appreciate it, man. Sometimes you need people to help you do things that you can't do on your own. So let's talk about what maniacal actually means, right? So really it's just like an excessive excitement about something that you're passionate about, right? And so you almost have this thing in you that it makes you feel as if you're crazy. And for me, starting this whole podcast, pod talk situation is me starting off doing something else again. People know me for trying to do this, trying to do that, whether it's clothes, whether it's just trying to help people in the street achieve their goal. This right here is me practicing what I believe in, being maniacal and just the everlasting pursuit of what I'm trying to do for myself and my life. So there was a clip that I had seen. It was with Busta Rhymes, and when I had first seen that clip, it made me think about like, man, that he just summed up everything that I am, everything that I try to do. And Mike, if you can you play that clip for me?
Pursuing your destiny, when you identify with your destiny, you have to be selfish, you have to be maniacal, you have to be uncompromising. And you have to move in a way when it comes to those three things, when you function completely in a way where it's an unwavering faith. Like, it don't matter how up that might look. It don't matter how much it feel like it ain't gonna work.
Delusional.
Complete delusion. You gotta believe the delusion. Because it's only delusional until it works. So is it really delusional? I'm only gonna call it delusion until it don't work.
And so really when I think about this clip and what it makes me think of is the person that I've known, that I've been my whole life, even since I was, a young kid. And being maniacal, it is a way of life. It's in the way that you go about your business. It's in the way that you go about other people's business. You have to have this relentless pursuit. I've been an entrepreneur for, I'm going to say officially about 9 years now, but it goes back to when I was a child. When I was a kid, I grew up in the north side of Columbus. Walnut Creek, Winding Hills is the neighborhood I grew up in. But when I would say probably 8 or 9 years old, my sister had a fish tank. And in this fish tank, it was guppies in there, right? And so if you know anything about guppies, they have babies like crazy. And so what I decided to do, I had a McDonald's Playhouse. And in this Playhouse, it had like a drive-through window. It had a cash register. But I figured out that, hey, we got too many guppies in this fish tank. What can I do to get rid of some of these guppies and make some money at the same time? And at that same time, we lived next door to a neighbor who worked at the drive-through that was next to the Dairy Queen over there on Westerville Road. And he would bring home donuts from the drive-through every day. And so I managed to talk him into selling me his donuts for 25 cents. So you can imagine you got this 8-year-old kid on the block in the street in front of the house. I got a baggie of guppies. I had a little baggie of the fish food, and I had the donuts from my neighbor. I sold the donuts for 50 cents, bought them for 25. So I made a 25, or 25-cent profit, which was cool for me. I was in elementary school. And so, one thing that my grandma always said about me, she said, that boy always going to figure out how to make some money. And, I'm still figuring out how to make some money, but this maniacal attitude is something that's been in me from the day that I've, touched ground on this earth. And so I live that, you know what I mean? And I want to teach that to other people, just this mindset. And so I'm maniacal in the way that I go about other people's business. Like I love helping people get their vision and help them see their vision come true. I don't like to always say all the things that I do, but I help a lot of people. And this right here is me doing what I got to do for me right now. My guy Mike, he always said, "Man, you should do a podcast." And I'm just like, "Man, I should, I would like to, but what am I going to talk about?" And today, this is the start of something that he put into me and something that is going to help me because we go through a lot of different things that we never really get a chance to get off of our chest, right? And so a lot of times I don't tell my personal business, but we're going to get into some of my personal business here just because I feel like some of the things that I go through, whether it be on an entrepreneur level, can help somebody, and whether I feel like in a relationship level that can help somebody. And a lot of times I just sit back, stay to myself, keep my business to myself, but it's time to tell my story. And I got an interesting story to tell, just like anybody else. So, one of the things that I wanted to touch on also is to be maniacal, you have to have a sense of awareness. And what I mean by having that sense of awareness, you got to pay attention to everything that's around you, right? I'm always open to different ideas. And what that means to me, being open to different ideas, is so much information going on around us every day. Whether you're listening to the radio, whether you're watching TV, whether you're driving down the street with your windows down and you can hear the information and just hear things, you have to be present 24/7. It sounds like maybe I might be bombarded with things that I don't want, but then it's up to you to kind of filter the information that comes in. And so the most important thing when you're trying to be an entrepreneur and you want to live this maniacal life, the maniacal way, you have to be aware because inspiration is everywhere. Opportunity is everywhere, and one of the crazy things is sometimes some opportunities might come across as strange. Some opportunities might come across as weird, but that's up to you to take in those opportunities, filter it through your own system, your own soul, your own conscience to really say, man, is this something that I could possibly get into? Is this something that could change my life? Is this something that could change my family's life? And one of the interesting things about opportunity and change is because sometimes you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable with some information that you're getting, right? And this makes me think of another story. It makes me think of my niece. When my niece Mackenzie, I never forget. It was back in the day. I grew up with the Walkman, the Discman, the CD player in the pouch, and you got your anti-skip and everything like that. And that was sweet. That was cool for me back then. My brother, everybody, we all had that anti-skip, right? And so one day, my niece showed up. And she had this little device. It looked like a little remote control. And I'm like, what are you doing with that? It's like, oh, this is an iPad or iPod. I'm like, an iPod? Let me see that. So she handed me the iPod, and the screen was like an inch long and an inch wide, and I'm looking at this thing like, what the heck is this? Meanwhile, I got this whole CD player sitting next to me on the hip. I'm thinking I'm with the latest technology, but it was the first time that I was actually scared of the information that was coming to me. And I'm like, yo, am I going to ever figure out how to work this little iPod technology? It scared me. And so from that point, I said, man, I can't. I was at a crossroads. I can't get lost in technology because we know that technology don't stop. We know the world is constantly moving. We know that things are changing. So I bring that back to say this: to be maniacal, when you come across something that might hinder you, something that might stop you in your tracks, something that you're not used to, something that just strange to you, sometimes you gotta have at it. Sometimes you gotta grab that thing that you're nervous about, that you're scared of, play with it, and see what it actually is. And so, like I said, I was scared of that iPod when I first seen it. Now, that's all we do now. We not thinking about CD players. It's the same with any type of technology. You can think about that, and the same when you come across what I want to say, because I don't want to get too deep into it, but I will mention it just for the sake of the illustration. We think about how the economy is right now, and we hear about digital assets and cryptocurrencies and things like that. Those things sound scary, and it sounds like something that maybe you might not want to get into, but the maniacal mindset, it says, you know what, let me see what that is. Let me see if that's something that could benefit me. So just, don't be scared to get out there and filter the information. Because like I said earlier, just to repeat myself, information is everywhere, and you have to take in and you have to filter, because everything might not be for you, and you shouldn't be scared of the things that's out there, right? So learn the things that's unknown, make them known. You got to do what you got to do to keep up with times. So another thing that I wanted to touch on in this first episode is really about being a father, right? And so if I'm living this maniacal lifestyle, I'm going to live it to the fullest in every aspect of my life. I'm very passionate about being a dad. And if I'm passionate about being a dad, I'm going to be passionate about showing up, showing out with him. Got an 8-year-old at the time of this. His name is Uriah Vincent Murphy. But, I'm maniacal about doing my absolute best when it comes to him. I'm maniacal about his appearance. I'm maniacal about his education. I'm maniacal about every aspect of his life, because I see myself in him and I know what he can be. So being maniacal, it really translates into, you should be able to see this flow and this lifestyle that I'm speaking about. I'm maniacal about being my son's friend. And so I'm talking about fatherhood a little bit because this first episode is going to be coming out the week of Father's Day. And it's just important to be there and have that example. Even if you're not a dad, right, there are still times when your presence is still necessary. Because like I said, I have a niece. It's my only niece. So I've been an uncle since 2000, really 2000, I guess 1999. But like being a dope uncle is just as important as being a dope dad. And so, happy Uncle's Day, along with, happy Father's Day, happy Uncle's Day too. So all of that is important, right? And so you really have to take inventory when you want to live this lifestyle to see what's important to you, to see what direction you want your life to go in, right? And with it being Father's Day, it's really important for me to be transparent with myself, be transparent with the people that I know, and really, first and foremost, I want to be transparent with my son. And so, again, he's only 8 right now. We have conversations. We have tough conversations. We talk about things that we need to talk about. But one of the biggest things that I know that I would like to do is simply just, apologize to my son. And I get into why I want to say that, right? I want to apologize to my son for not always showing the strength that I feel like a male needs to show when they're raising a boy, right? And when I say apologize for not showing the strength, what I'm getting at is to not showing the strength into making all of the right decisions when it comes to raising him in a direction that I know that he needs to go, right? Biggest thing that I've never really talked about publicly, this is the first time I'm even mentioning it, is the fact that I am going to be getting a divorce soon. And, it's something that's very private, but obviously it's not so private now, but it is what it is. And so I talked to my son about the situation, and he tells me how he feels about the situation. And what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing is that it's even that much more important for me to be present in his life and to be having this openness with him, right? And so the strength that I feel like I'm feeling and showing him is kind of difficult because I'm learning about this co-parenting thing, right? Co-parenting is not the easiest thing. Whether you think that it's going to be easy or not, it really comes down to the parents deciding to make it difficult or not. If we're honest, either the parent is going to, be mad, or the parent, are, they're going to decide to get along. So we get along for the most part, but there are those things that just still kind of grinds my gears. If I'm gonna be honest, the things that I know that he needs that she might not necessarily really understand. And so I'm apologizing for not showing the strength that I need to show when it comes to me and his mom having different views on things that need to be done with him. And, over time, I feel like as he gets older, I'm going to be able to talk to him a little more, and I'm going to be able to show that strength once things get more settled and more finalized. But sometimes you just need to pick peace. And, when we're at odds about a situation with him, sometimes, you know what? It's funny because I'll tell this quick story because it's funny to me. Some people might not find it funny, but I think it's silly because he's such a smart guy. Um, Me and his mom was having a discussion about his haircut, right? And so he kind of wants to grow his hair out for whatever reason, which is fine. But I told him, I said, listen, I said, you can grow your hair out when you're taking care of your hair by yourself with no help. You're washing it, you're brushing it, putting your grease in it, all of that kind of stuff, right? And so me and him had this talk, and he still is a child, so he still kind of tells his mom, well, I don't want to cut my hair. But the crazy thing is he don't want to cut his hair because he's such an impatient little boy. He don't want to go to the barber shop. He don't want to sit in the chair because he think the barber taking too long. He act like the clippers hurting him when they ain't barely touching it. He jumping and all of that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot that goes into him wanting to grow his hair, right? And I understand that because I'm the one who taking to get his haircut and stuff, right? But so to make the point that I'm making, me and his mom were at odds about his hair. And it could have turned into a big thing, and it could have, been settled. It would be nice if I can just make the decision about my son's hair without having to talk to anybody about it, because I'm the one taking him to get his haircut, paying for it and all that kind of stuff. But that's neither here nor there. But I ended up letting him just get an edge up, right? And so I was kind of tight about it, but I just didn't feel like arguing about the situation no more. And I seen him this morning, and he just got his edge up. The boy look a mess. The boy need a haircut. But because I didn't feel like arguing and pushing the issue, I let them just have it, the way that they want it, right? But like the crazy part was when I was taking him to the barbershop to get this edge up that I don't like, he looked at me in the car. He said, Dad, he said, when you and mom were talking the other day, he said, did you leave in disgrace? I said, I said, did I leave in disgrace? He said, yeah, because like, did you leave in disgrace? Did you lose? I said, you know what, sir? I said, look, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I said, no, your dad did not leave in disgrace, like with my head down. I said, sometimes it's just some battles that you just don't want to fight, man. And so I just left it at that. If that's what y'all want to do, then that's what y'all want to do. I know I'm right in the situation. A little 8-year-old boy, he needs to have that clean cut. But, sometimes you just don't feel like arguing. And so those are the things that I'm saying. I don't express the strength and the forcefulness of what a dad knows that his son need in those situations. And I don't know if that's going to come back to bite me in the long run. I hope not. But I just hope as he, gets older that he'll understand, right? And so one of the things that I want to kind of talk about as far as like this applies to men on Father's Day, it applies to women also. And there comes a time when you grow up, you have your own experiences. We always think our parents don't know what they're talking about, right? I was one of them same people. My dad, mom, they don't know what they're talking about. I come from a household that My mom and dad was separated for pretty much most of my life. They didn't get divorced till later. But my dad was always super present, talked 23, 4 times. He just lived on the south side of Columbus. So he was always there. Him and my mom had a pretty decent relationship too. They just couldn't be together. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is there's there's always going to be a time when that child grows up, they have their life experiences. That's when they need to have a conversation with their dad. Probably mom too, but it's Father's Day, so that's all we're gonna talk about is the dads, right? So I'm looking forward to that time that I can actually be candid and real with Uriah about what's going on with me and his mom. I try to explain to him as a 7-year old now or an 8-year old now, but I know that he can't grasp all the concepts. I know that whatever I say, he's going to run back and say to her to see if daddy was telling the truth because he does the same thing with me. But like, so when we get to a certain age with our experiences, we have to give our fathers the opportunity to tell us their story, whether your parents are still together, whether your parents are not together. We have to give the dads an opportunity to say what's real, to say what they've been through, to express whatever they might want to express to you now that you might be able to understand as an adult that you wouldn't have been able to understand as a child, right? Because there are things that I've talked to my dad about that I understand now, his point of view when it comes to certain things, whether I agree with him or not, that doesn't really matter. But it's really about fostering the relationship and having a better understanding. You don't really get into marriage to think like, okay, I'm gonna get a divorce one day. It's one of those things that just it doesn't hit you until it shows up in your doorstep. Me personally, I don't really believe in divorce, but I don't believe in living the way that I was living either. And some tough decisions had to be made. And I'm going to be able to have a conversation with Uriah about that when he gets much older. It's too much for him now, right? There was a young guy that I'm really good friends with. I kind of more like a nephew to me, right? Him and his dad didn't have the greatest relationship, but they were kind of working on their relationship, and this young guy was having his first child. Child was just first born, and his dad was coming into town to see his granddaughter, right? And so I remember telling this young guy, I said, listen, your dad probably is dying for an opportunity to tell you like his side of the story. And make a long story short, he was like, you know what, you're right. When he met with his dad that weekend, he said, my dad told me all kinds of things that I feel like I understood. And as a result, it made their relationship start to grow better. And like they're able to heal from whatever they, might not have understood about each other when they was young. So I don't want to prolong that situation too long, but for Father's Day, you should think about having an open dialogue with your dad and just say, Dad, is it anything you want me to know? Is it anything you want me to understand? Is it something you want to get off your chest about what you've been through? You want to tell me something about relationships? And you might be surprised what you find out. I also got a friend who hasn't seen his dad since he was probably 5 or 6 that, he's thinking about having that conversation with his dad, and it might go good, it might not. But, I'm just coming from the standpoint of wanting my son to understand what's going on and knowing that I can't tell him everything exactly like it is now. I always tell him the truth, but I tell him the truth from an 8-year-old perspective, right? And that's I think the best thing to do. But I'm gonna get into a lot of who I am and why I am the way that I am as these episodes continue to go on. Really, what I want you to take away from the day with this first intro episode is, adopt a maniacal lifestyle, adopt a maniacal way, right? Be relentless in the things that you're passionate about. Be, unwavering in the things that you believe in, the goals and dreams and vision that you have. We can do these things. I can do these things. You can do these things, right? I'm constantly telling other people, you can do this. I believe in you, but you got to take those things and say, look, I believe in myself, right? And so, this is just the first step of many, practicing the maniacal way. You see, I got the maniacal shirt on. It got maniacal going across the chest. I got the same thing going on the back. Eventually, I'm gonna make these shirts available too. But you know, that's just the recap. And we gonna continue to do this thing. Episode 1. Mike, go ahead, play that outro for me, my brother.